Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and I have a special guest. His name is Ivan Temelkov. Hey, Ivan.
Hey, what's going on, Cesar?
Oh, good, man. Good. Hey, thank you for being here. Really appreciate that. And before we get started, let me just give the listeners a little bit of your background and we can take off from there. So Ivan, he is the CEO of Razor Sharp Digital, the #1 human marketing agency in the world, and an avid entrepreneur, vlogger, podcaster, father and husband. In 2015, he helped his family flooring business go from $250,000 to over $500,000 in year-over-year revenue. He has been featured in Inc. magazine, Social Media Examiner, The Rise to the Top, and have worked with global recognized brands. Some of those include Amazon, Audible, AT&T, Charter, Spectrum, to just name a few. Wow, that's amazing, man. You definitely had a pretty good track record there. So that's awesome. So why don't we get started by telling me a little bit about your background? Where are you originally from and how was your upbringing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I always enjoy sharing the story because I think it's the story that just kind of paves, to where we are today. It's our background that really drives us to the people that we become. A little bit about me. So I was born in Bulgaria. My family immigrated to the States 30 years ago. And I didn't move to the U.S. until I was 14 years old. So that was 26 years ago. And this young kid who, cultural barrier, language barrier, was very lost at the time. It was a completely different beginning of my life. And so that was really also the beginning of a lot of things, so to speak. When we moved to the U.S., it's probably the best thing that has ever happened to me. It was merely just a risk, a wild goose chase, a chance that my father took when everybody else said, "What are you doing, man? Why are you leaving, a wife and 2 kids?" And really goes back to the risks and the sacrifices that we have to make in order to accomplish the things that we want. And so when we moved here, the first probably, I would say probably 10 years of my life were really tough. In high school, I was bullied all through high school. I was that kid that, quite often ate lunch by himself, was kicked on the bus, called names, pushed around, sat on the back of the bus quite too many times through high school. And so those were really dark days where, there was a struggle of self-confidence and self-esteem. But those were also days that really, really helped me evolve into, I think, the person that I've become today. And I think in part it's one, I took strong interest into technology 26 years ago when we first moved here. My father was just beginning his entrepreneurial endeavors with one of his first businesses. And so I took interest into technology, software, early days of the internet, dial-up internet, social media, days of like MySpace and GeoCities, before, social giants like Facebook, and Instagram were even thought of. And from there, little did I know that this would later turn into a career, a self-made career, so to speak. Kind of fast forward a little bit, because of high school, barely graduated high school because it was such a dark time. I mean, I had lost motivation. It was a very tough time just to remain positive. And when I went on to college, let's just say that in the first 2 years, completely lost interest in anything that I was doing there. Was bored, didn't find any interest, dropped out of college. And during all this time, I was accumulating knowledge about the internet, technology, how basically everything worked. And kind of fast forward until like 2005, 2006, really started getting into digital marketing and internet marketing professionally. Let's just say that I was given chances just on a wild card by some people, and that really kind of got me the foot in the door, so to speak. And from there, just really, it was a matter of proof of concept. I realized that I've always had what it took to be a performance-based individual to generate results for clients with digital and marketing and technology, and I loved every bit of it. In fact, fast forward even more, I was able to work with a lot of these brands because as I was progressing through my career in the agency world prior to starting my business, and then was even invited to develop a curriculum around a continued education program that really right here in St. Louis, as part of the University of Missouri St. Louis, that really taught people how to do this stuff, social and digital and search and content and blogging. And this was like 8 years ago at this point. And so that kind of brings us to modern day. 5 years ago, when I decided to start Razor Sharp Digital, I felt it was time. At that point, I had worked with all these brands that you mentioned, and I was doing really, really well. I realized that it's time to invest in myself. And that's when Razor Sharp Digital was born as a human marketing agency, because I saw a huge gap in the industry where there was the lack of that human experience. And so really wanted to focus on that. And as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah. Wow. I gotta tell you, definitely, you've gone through some very challenging times, and I have in my notes that
Mhm.
perhaps the most challenging things you've gone through in your life is really migrating to the states, right? And I want to tap into that for a little bit because I know there's a lot of
Yep.
people that are listening to us. I myself, I'm an immigrant from Mexico, and I came here when I was 10, and very similar to you, just being able to communicate, the language barrier, just being in a different society all in itself is a challenge by itself, and sometimes we forget to do that. So I guess I want to piggyback a little bit on that because I think that when people come to the states, you either have two options, right? Number one is you kind of fall into that place where you're lost. You, like you said, you get bullied, you have self-confidence, self-esteem, all these different things, and then you get
Yep.
hung up on that, and you end up going a different route. Or you can somehow acknowledge and you know deal with what emerges, and then take that to be a fuel to power you to do something great, which is kind of what you've done here, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess for people that might be barely coming to the states or have been here for the last couple of years, what were some of the things that you did throughout that time, that helped you? I mean, being bullied with self-confidence,
Yeah.
by yourself, all of that is not easy. So what were some of the things that were going through your head? I mean, like questioning yourself, or how did you deal with that?
Yeah. These are all great questions. And in fact, I talk a lot about this, even in my own podcast and stories that I share to people. And a lot of these people also they kind of get stumped when I share some of these things with them because they can't quite fathom how someone would deal with these self confidence and doubt issues. And here's what I did. I mean, when I was 14 years old and we first came to the States, I didn't know any English.
Mm.
I maybe knew 3 words. That was about it. And I realized early on, self belief is just that, I mean, you can get kicked around, you can get pushed around, the world, haters and naysayers. But at the end of the day, is nobody can take away your self belief. Nobody can take away, the person that you were meant to be. I think it's unfortunate that when we're very young, we don't realize that. It's difficult for us. And so at that young age, the realization that I came across in the first 3 months was, okay, I have a language barrier. I have to learn how to communicate. And I realized that communication is such a key component to everything, everything, solving problems, sharing messages across. And so in the first 3 months, I lived and breathed English every single day for anywhere from 8 to 14 hours per day, meaning between school. I was a English as second language student also. I mean, I just immersed myself into that because I knew that I needed to learn the language. And what was actually fascinating is in the first 3 months, I was able to develop, after a 3 month period, I was able to develop basic conversations. And in a very short period of time, this is something that a lot of people that speak English as a second language have to go through is when you go through the mind shift of your brain stops translating into your native language. Like you embrace the secondary language. Because what was happening when I was so young is just that I'd hear things in English and I would translate them in Bulgarian. And then after that, between the first 3 to 6 months, kind of went through this mind shift of like really embracing that from an English standpoint. And that's when things really started opening up. I noticed participation in the classroom, asking questions, collaboration. People around me were actually taking interest in me because I was different.
Yeah.
They would ask questions, about things. And so that was a really big challenge, but, that was also one of the best things I've ever done. And actually, there's a lot of people these days who can't even tell that English is a second language for me because I've lived and breathed it for every bit of 26 years. And, they're not even able to tell because I barely have an accent, if any.
Yeah.
And so it really goes to, and I'm glad you asked this question, is just that it's the mindset of if you want something bad enough, if you're determined, if you're committed enough, you will do whatever it takes. It doesn't matter, literally. Like you just fall, your mind and your heart really transforms and adapts into like the state where it just embraces fully what that takes. I mean, it's an amazing feeling. And as an entrepreneur too, it's something that I remind myself of very frequently because, here's an example this morning. My kids wanted Halloween donuts from Krispy Kreme. So the Krispy Kreme website was down last night, and so was their app. And that's the only way that I could order them. The alternative is to show up at the drive-thru at 6 a.m. this morning and actually pick up donuts. Well, guess what? Ivan hasn't gotten up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday in I don't know how long. And so, the fact that I made the determination, said, you know what, making my kids happy, the smile on their faces is priceless. And so when you kind of, put that in your mind and know that the effect, the outcome it would have, it's really anything, not donuts. It's really anything in life and in business. You really go through these transformational experiences that really makes you realize, how capable you are as a human being, how extraordinary you are as a human being. And I think that really goes back to, your question is just on when I was young, is just that the self-belief was always inside me. It's just, I had to find a way to practice that. And I think when you're really young and you're surrounded by, I was bullied every day. I hated going to school, in high school. The first probably year and a half of middle school was okay. But once I went into ninth grade, it was terrible. It was terrible. Like every day I dreaded it. But then I found hope. I found hope in interest. I found hope in learning a new language. I found hope in survival also. And now that I look back, it's actually amazing because, a lot of people think that when bad things happen to us, and there's been a lot of bad things that have happened in my life too, and some of them we'll probably chat about, but I think it's, the setbacks, the experiences, especially bad ones, that really teach us lessons. And I know that sounds so counterintuitive to most people. It's like, why should I suffer? Well, you have to suffer. Like literally, suffering is a way to accelerate forward. It really is. When you think about it, is if you want to get into shape, right? You got
Hmm.
to go to the gym and you got to eat right, right? So you're suffering by exercising, and most people hate exercising. I mean, in the United States, over 60% of people are obese.
Wow. Yeah.
And so they hate going to the gym, but you got to suffer if you want to gain something. You know, if you want to build a business, you have to invest. So you got to suffer and invest. And so I've come to realize that, and now being 40 years old, I've come to realize that failures and setbacks are things that are meant to be embraced. When I used to get frustrated, every time I would fail, I would say, Ivan, really? Like, was this a self induced failure or was this a completely unintentional failure? Could I have prevented it? I would have all these questions, and I realized that, you know what, this was meant to happen. Embrace it, learn from it, move forward. Don't dwell on it, because I used to dwell on stuff like that. And when I was younger, I used to dwell on those things, especially through high school. You know, I used to think, I'm like, I remember like so many days just sitting at
Hmm.
lunch by myself, or getting on the bus or getting off the bus and being kicked so I would fall flat on my face. And I would think to myself, like, why me? You know, why me? What's so different about me? You know, what makes me lesser of a human being than these people? And honestly, absolutely nothing. In fact, what I realized years later is that the pain that I endured, the emotional pain that I endured, and now as a father, having to educate my kids about, you know, bullying and anti-bullying, the fact that it's not acceptable, you know, it makes me realize that it's that pain, that emotional pain, the physical pain also, that taught me how to be a better person. Would I wish that on somebody? No, hell no. I would not wish bullying on anybody, because it warps people's mindsets, their character. It really does. And it did for me too. You know, through high school especially, I wanted to play sports. I was really good at sports. I was very active physically up until the age of 18. And that was actually another thing that I found actual gratification in through high school. It's not only technology, not only the language and communication, because I did have some friends and some people. In fact, I have one person that I've been friends with ever since high school. I still stay in touch via Facebook, which is like insane, because I literally don't talk. I haven't talked to anybody in my class all these years,
Yeah.
believe it or not. And so all through high school, I found fitness and staying active a great way to keep me invigorated. And so going back to your question is, you know, it's hard to develop confidence. It really is. You know, confidence is probably one of the most powerful things that anybody can possess. If you have confidence and you can develop that confidence, and know that I'm unstoppable, and not worry about what anybody tells you or what happens, just keep going. I mean, the sky's the limit, as they say. You can do anything. And that's probably, you know, everyone has their own regrets. Now looking back, I think to myself, you know what, I wish I had more confidence back then. I wish I knew better. But, you know, the reason I am where I am today is because of what happened in the past. The past is the past. Focus on the future, you know, because the future is, what are you going to do from this point on? What happened in the past is important. You know, it's in the past, it's history, but don't let your history dictate your future.
Mm.
And a lot of people actually do that. A lot of people allow their history to dictate their future. And you know, here's another example: is I've been friends with a couple of people over the last 2 years. One actually I met on Facebook, and we met in real life. He's an actor, and
Hmm.
he's really supported me in a lot of things. We just became really good friends, and you know, yesterday he sent me a message and he said, Ivan, I've seen what you can do. I've seen what you can do. You know, you're successful in your business. You know, you're getting in shape. You've been a cyclist for 7 years. You've done a lot of amazing things, dude. Like, have more self-belief in yourself. You can do this. And I think one part of me is there's still a south side of that 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, you know, that was bullied. But and it took me a long time, Cesar, a long time to really put that in the past,
Mm.
you know, and realize that, because I used to allow that to hold me back. I'm a kid who barely graduated high school, dropped out of college. I would have been the first to go to college in my family, to talk about the bar being really high, right?
Right. Yeah.
And choosing a different direction. But then I realized that, you know what? It's my life. It's my life. I choose the way I live it. And in fact, I talked about this yesterday on my podcast, is self-love. Love yourself first and foremost, because you know what? You get to live with yourself all of your life. People will come and go in your life, relationships, wives, whatever. People, loved ones, the circle of life. But the one person that's constant with you is yourself. So learn how to love yourself. And that is being patient with yourself, believing in yourself, developing confidence, being more assertive, being more daring, you know. And this is literally part of my approach, is that I'm every bit of disruptive, I'm every bit of innovative, I'm every bit of an early adopter, but that's precisely what has helped me get to where I am today. Because I have done, when everybody goes right, I go left. Everybody goes left, I go right. I'm always doing the opposite. And I think in life and in business, to overcome anything, is always think of what could I do different? Because there's enough mediocrity in the world. It just is. You want to be a leader, leaders don't do the same shit as everybody else.
Right.
They don't, and so maybe that answers your question.
No,
I know I
yeah,
kind of
no,
elaborated
and I
upon
love
it.
that. And one thing that I want to kind of go back to too is that we talk about failures, right? And failures are, again, they happen very often. And I'm with you. Where if you're not failing, then you're maybe not you're not learning, so you're not moving ahead. The biggest
Yep.
thing is though, I've often been asked this question, and I want to get your input. Is, well, I fell today, yesterday, like three times today. Like I'm failing constantly, and I can not seem to get out of that. And like, how did I continue to do this when I'm failing, or how did I continue to move forward, right? When I'm constantly failing, what would be
Yeah.
your take on that?
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty powerful question, and here's my thoughts on that. Is the most successful people, or some of the most successful people I've ever met, and I've interviewed even billionaires before, um, are lifelong learners.
Mm.
And what that really means is that a lifelong learner is someone that never stops learning. They embrace every day, every single day. They don't develop that superior ego to where they think that, you know what, I'm above everyone else. Because when you think you're above everyone else, you're actually beneath everyone else. Because you develop this egocentric superiority. So I will tell you this: failures are really not failures. They're just experiences that did not generate results that you had hoped for. And I will tell you this: I don't think I know any successful person. And again, that depends on how you define success.
Right.
But in most modern times, success is, building a business and having lots of money and, living a comfortable life, right? Let's say that's the definition of success, because my definition of success is a little different,
Mm-hmm.
similar, but a little different. And so for every 10 fails, live for that one epic win. And here's why. It's because it's about willpower. It's about resilience. If you don't have resilience, you're not going to get anywhere. I'll tell you this, and here's a prime example. In the first 3 years of my business, I lost over $100,000 of bad decisions, people not paying me, doing free work. And I used to get so aggravated, almost bang my head against the wall. And mind you, I'm head of household. I got a family to support,
Right.
So I had two options: is cave in and say, I'm a failure, I can't do this, or say, yes, I can do this, I'm capable of it. I've got just as many opportunities, if not more, than everybody else. I've got just as many hours, if not more, because I'm always working. In fact, I'm working more than the average person. Why? Why? Because someone deems this as a failure, or I think that I failed? No, keep going, Ivan. Get the hell up and keep going. Every time I don't want to go to the gym, I say to myself, do you want to get fit? Get your ass to the gym. Stop complaining. And I think that's what That's what people don't realize. Because trust me, I know so many people that start and fail in a short period of time. And they talk about resilience. They talk about optimism.
Hmm.
They talk about positivity. But when it comes to practicality and actually doing it, oh man, it's a different ball game. That's why they say 1% of entrepreneurs succeed, 99% will fail. That means that almost every single entrepreneur that starts something will probably fail. But the level of failure is really unpredictable. You know, it could be financial failure. You know, it could be lack of skill set. But honestly, there's absolutely nothing, unless it's life or death, that you can't control, that you are not able to overcome. Now, when you literally prepare yourself for that mindset, and here's what I do. So 7 years ago, I got online and bought a $300 road bike, an aluminum bike. I still have it to this day. It's a Shrimp Prelude, and I love the bike. Handlebars. I started riding. You know, in the first year, it was like 5 miles, 7 miles once per week. Then it was 10 miles. Then it was 20 miles. Then it was 30 miles. It was twice a week, 30, 35 miles, 40 miles, 50 miles. And then one day I stopped to think and I was like, why am I cycling? Is this for fitness? Is this for endurance? No, it's for clarity. It's when I'm on that bike for 30, 40 miles, I have the biggest amount of clarity. Like completely unstoppable. I can conquer the world. It's a release. And that's something that people need to have is if you think you're failing, find a way to release that tension. You have to. Don't hold it inside. I've made that mistake for years. And that attributes to stress. That attributes to depression. That attributes to your inability to execute and do. So when you fail, step back and say, okay, why did I fail? And this is what I do is, okay, did I do something wrong? Okay, why did I do that wrong? Can I do that better next time? Okay, should I probably maybe go for a bike ride if I can, or go to the gym? Let me clear my head. And then I mean, I can't describe the chemical shift that happens literally. And I've seen this literally, this type of behavior that I just explained in successful people that run 100, $200 million businesses. Like literally, there's a reason why they get up early in the morning, why they exercise, why they have a schedule, why they document, why they're not afraid to fail. They know that I have to fail to succeed. But what that failure is going to be, I don't know. Am I going to lose money? Am I going to lose my house? Am I going to go bankrupt? It doesn't matter. But none of those things should stop you. And people, like right now, in this pandemic, you know, to most people, businesses are closing, or people that are still working full-time jobs are forced to work from home. You know, people are losing their houses, their cars. You know, like a lot of things are happening. For me, my business is growing. And now, when I look at that, of course, is a pandemic going to stop me? No. And I did not. It's a mindset transformation. Is it a setback? Sure. It creates limitations. But here's something that most people don't also realize is that where there's a problem, a solution awaits. The more problems, in fact, the bigger the problems you solve, the higher the payout. This is really anything in life and in business. Everywhere there's a problem. Like I look at problem like people that are struggling. You know, I chat with them. You know, it's like, hey, can I help you, man? What's going on? Tell me. Let's just have a convo. You know, when I realized those convos, maybe not now, maybe a month later, 3 months, 3 years, 5 years, people remember that. I've even had people 5 years ago that I've talked to be like, hey, Ivan, how's it going, man? Just want to reach out to you. So how you doing? I remember that convo that we had. You know? And so failures, in a sense, is they have to happen. You know? There's no progress without failure. There isn't. There's no success without failure. But what those failures look like, you just have to embrace them. You have to embrace them and become solution oriented. I fail so many times every day. literally on so many different things. Late to drop my kids off to school, getting them up early in the morning, or couldn't get work done for a client. And I realized, all right, Ivan, you have shortcomings. How are you going to resolve that? Be more proactive, be more communicative. And honestly, when you start taking responsibility, your life will change drastically. It will. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of, is that they don't want to be accountable. They don't want to be responsible because it puts them on the spot. And they think that when they fail, that failures dictate the course of their future, dictate the course of their life right now. And that's not true. And in fact, everything that I just shared about failures is everything that I've learned from people that have gone from zero to making 100 million and losing it all. Mm-hmm. And then getting up and saying, you know what? I'm going to do it again. I lost it. It happened. I'm going to do it again. I know ex-felons that make more money than most people now. I have successful businesses.
Yep. Yep.
Did they allow their past to dictate their future? No. Did they allow society to tell them that, well, you're a felon, so you can't start a business, you can't have a happy life? Bullshit. Yeah. Says who? Right. I'm the person that dictates my destiny, whatever that is. Control the things you can. Don't worry about the things that you can't. It's that simple. And just keep doing, keep doing. You fail, get up. You fail, you get up. It's like in Rocky. You get knocked down, get up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get knocked down, get up, man. Keep going. You got a lot more fuel inside of you. That's what people don't understand, is that they don't want to tap in the deep insides of themselves. And I was that person. Because I was bullied in high school, I thought that I'm incapable. I'm not talented. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough money. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not fit enough. You know what? That's nothing but excuses. That's literally all that is. And so it's amazing when you remove everything from society and one of the issues here, Cesar, is that I think most of us growing up, at least prior generations, were taught differently in a very traditional manner. I think a lot of us, so, I'm 40 years old, so I'm an upper end millennial, 80s kid, right? And I was taught to go to college. I was taught that if I didn't go to college, I wouldn't make it in life. Says who? Just because I didn't finish college. In fact, I made more money than the people that have MBAs, and I have zero debt in terms of college loans. Isn't that a smart investment? I think it is, if you ask me.
Right.
I self-educated myself and got my MBA from the School of Google. Most people can't fathom that. They can't. Why? Because I can't be resourceful? Because I can't be applicable? Sure, you can be, Cesar, and you are, and so is everybody else. But it's about self-belief. It's about confidence. It's about you fail, get up, and keep going. So that's my take on failure.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I love what you mentioned, and part of that is that I think it was Walt Disney. He had 3 or 4 nervous breakdown. He filed bankruptcy 7 times, and when you think about that, again, as you mentioned, very successful people have gone and through so many different lessons of failures, right? And what I love what you mentioned is that you got to be able to start making that mind shift or start changing how you perceive things or how you look at things by finding something of interest. Like, again, cycling. I like to go out for walks every morning and night when I need to clear my mind. And during the day, if I'm having some sort of a challenging day, I just go out on a walk and just walk and put on some earphones and just start clearing my mind. And so you have to be able to find something. I love the fact that you mentioned that, and just kind of going through all of that too, right? One thing that comes to mind is what are some tips or what are some of the things that you would suggest people can do to start building that self-confidence?
Yeah, that's really a tough one, honestly. The self-confidence. The self-confidence is going to come from within, to be honest with you. There's going to be people out there in the world that will support and encourage you and motivate you. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to do anything for you. And so it takes time to build self-confidence. I would encourage you to to really, do some soul searching. That's where I think self-confidence really comes from. A soul searching is that, you know, every human being has something unique or many unique things in themselves. We were all built uniquely for a reason, by the creator. And so, but a lot of people overlook that because they're so immersed into the minutia of the world, politics and world news and wars and religion and everything, money, you know, and it's really tough to detach from that because you live it on a day by day basis. And so my advice is that it's soul searching, as some people would even go as far as getting a coach. Coaches also help. If you're someone that's really struggling to find direction, a coach can definitely help you with that. You know, Personally, I haven't had a coach, to be honest with you, and this is why it's taken me so long. So you can shorten the time span by getting the help from those that have done the things that you want to do, right? So, you want to have a happier life. What does that look like? Like for me is I've always wanted a family, I've always wanted kids. So I surrounded myself with people like that. I wanted to be a successful entrepreneur, have a successful business. I surrounded myself with people like that, and there's only a few in between. And that's when the self-confidence really started developing. And then looking at their patterns, their behaviors also. What do they do that I haven't done? And that has really helped me build my self-confidence. I mean, hearing stories of people that rags to riches, heard too many of those, honestly. People just like me. In fact, some of them were even homeless. I interviewed a guy not too long ago that slept on a pissed mattress for 4 years.
Wow.
In a 200 square foot apartment, And so suddenly makes you realize that, what, maybe I didn't have it so bad, And that's just it, is realizing that when you look at the outside world and look at other people, that's another great way, is because people compare. People compare themselves to others. They observe in a way, more of being observant. So when you observe others and you see the lives of other people, suddenly you realize, what, maybe I don't have it so bad. And that's when that self-confidence really starts to build up. And you do that over a course of time. Successful habits is important. Building successful habits for yourself is important. Like journaling is important. Every night, journal. Document. Every day. Map out what your day is going to look like the day before. That's really going to help you build that self-confidence, because it also builds self-belief in knowing that, what, I have some structure. I have a process. I have a workflow here. And when you start doing that in a repetitive fashion, suddenly you realize, what, I can do this. I can do this, because now you have a proof of concept. And that's just it. I think in part, self-confidence is about proof of concept, because the reason people are not confident or struggle with confidence is because they don't have enough proof of concept in the things that they want to do in life and in business. And so the more you practice, and then at the end of the day is, how big are your goals and dreams? Do you have goals and dreams? And if you don't have any goals and dreams, then you're coasting through life. That's nobody's fault but yours. You haven't created any goals and dreams. And if you have goals and dreams, then why are you stopping? Are you gonna let lack of self-confidence stop you? Your goals and dreams are not big enough. That's just it. And I try to remind myself every time of that. It's like, Ivan, you want it all. You want it all, but you get a little tired or you lose a little bit of motivation. It happens, to all of us. But then you have to ground yourself and remember that this is what I'm working towards. And it's going to take a good part of your life. It really will, because too many people want overnight success. And that's just another thing, is just that's where self-confidence, so it's a multitude of different things. Is your goals, your dreams, believing in yourself, looking at other successful people that have done things that you want to do. Don't, and I've talked about this, don't emulate or duplicate them. Just observe and see why they're doing these things. How is it benefiting them? Is it worth trying? So this is why, in part, I was very active up until I was 19 years old in fitness. I was in amazing shape. when I started smoking. This was actually, I started smoking at 16 years old. I smoked for 10 years until I was 26. So like for a 6, 7 year period, I wasn't doing anything at all. Lost traction. That's because I was lost. And then over time realized that with the build up of the self-confidence and looking at successful people, really defining my goals and dreams, that, you know what, like, I really need to refocus. That's what I need to do. That's what people need to do. It's not easy. It's not easy. Because when you look at the world, there's only a few people who are actually confident. It's the true leaders. You want to know why? It's because leaders are not afraid to fail. If you look at any leader, whether it's a president or an influential leader, or someone like a Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, who was criticized earlier on when I think it was when he sold PayPal for 20 million and lived in a 400 square foot apartment. Everybody was like, dude, you just sold PayPal for 20 million. You're living in PayPal in 400 square foot apartment, right?
Yeah.
But he was being smart about it. He didn't worry about what the rest of the world thought. He invested his money well, self-made billionaire.
Yeah.
And so study the habits, look at what successful people are doing, surround yourself with people who have done the things you want to do. Look at the path that they have taken. Now you're going to have your own unique path. Keep that in mind. But there's going to be a lot of similarity to the things that you will need to do that others have done, that have accomplished the things that you want to accomplish. So that would probably be my best advice on building self-confidence.
And part of that is, it goes back to one of the things that you said. Always be yourself, regardless of what society pushes you to be, right? And so I love that message, because a lot of times we are so hung up on what do my parents want me to be, my family, my friends, the society, and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to, as you said, is what do you want to be, right? And you got to be able to find that. And are you either just going through this journey called life and just kind of going through that journey day by day, or are you trying to really leave an impact behind, right? And so you have to be able to define those things. One thing that I really admire about you is that obviously it's clearly that you have so many great things going on for yourself, and you keep up this very positive mindset. You've given us some ideas. What are some of the things that you do personally on a day-to-day basis to keep you in this positive mindset and or staying focused on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, let's just say that every day is not rainbows and unicorns. I'll tell you that.
I know that for a fact. Yeah.
So one of the first things is knowing that, for one, not every day is going to be a win. You're going to have some bad days, but understanding that those bad days are probably your biggest challenges. That's one thing you have to realize, is because that's when you're truly tested of your true abilities. Because greatness and being solution oriented is not when everything is rainbows and unicorns. It's when shit hits the fan, and then you got to be really solution oriented and figure out how to get out of the mess. That's the first thing. Now for me is that it's a sense of gratitude, Cesar. That's literally, and what I mean sense of gratitude is that in the morning. So during the weekdays, I'm the one that usually gets my 4-year-old son and my 2-year-old daughter awoke in the morning and ready for school. I drive them to daycare, I dress them, have breakfast with them, feed them, make sure they're taken care of. And when I wake up in the morning, the very first thing that I realize that, okay, I have my kids, my wife's okay, everything else is going to be okay. Because there's a huge story behind my kids also, and my wife also, and they're part of success for me, because that's what success in part means to me. And having gratitude for that, and realizing that, what, I have my children, I have roof over my head, I woke up in a bed, the heater's now running because it's winter time here in the Midwest. Things are good. There's food in the fridge. There's coffee. Like the little things. So it's the gratitude mindset that you have to embrace. And once you embrace that gratitude mindset, it's really a transformational experience every day. I know a lot of people talk about like they don't look at their phone in the morning for like the first 15 minutes or the first hour. for me, being a digital guy, I'm always plugged in.
Right.
So I like to stay communicated. I like to stay immersed. So like when I wake up, it's usually a couple minutes. Like, okay, I'm awake. Where am I? Oh, okay. My heart's beating. I have air in my lungs. I reach over to my phone. I just scan through it, and it's like, okay, is there something urgent that I need to address? No. Okay. And over the next hour, hour and a half, I focus my attention on my kids. Get them out of bed, get them dressed, make sure they have breakfast. And that's the highlight of my day. The other highlight is seeing them in the afternoon. And so, but that's me. That's what I embrace. It's the gratitude and the appreciation. And the reason I said there's a story, behind my kids is because 6 years ago, me and my wife, we were told that we couldn't conceive naturally. The doctors didn't know why. And so our only option was to go through in vitro fertilization, which is an assistive medical approach, which is actually very common, especially since, my wife was 34, 35. And, usually when you get that late in age for women, it's, as they say, the biological clock is ticking, and the chances of conceiving naturally is actually less than 12%. Wow. And so immediately for me, it was like, wait, I've always wanted kids. Like, why is this happening? And I still to this day, I know they're both acts of miracle. The way it happened, the way it ended up costing me over $40,000 out of pocket. It caused me to go bankrupt. And that was another thing, is just that when I was going through that bankruptcy, which was a little over 3 years ago, that was finalized. Finally, being able to put it back is just that when that was happening, like literally, there were so many things that were going through my mind, Cesar, but I kept reminding myself, and this goes back to what I do daily, is just that they are the win. They're the ultimate prize. I paid the sacrifice. A bankruptcy is nothing. $40,000 is nothing. I have 2 lives that I get to cherish for the rest of mine.
Right.
That enhance and complement me as a human being. That is priceless to me. And when I literally acknowledge that, it's like every single day reminding myself that. It's like, Ivan, you can do anything. Stop worrying about what the world thinks. Stop worrying about what other people tell you. Stop worrying about what your parents tell you. Stop worrying about what anybody tells you. You just do what you want to do, because you said something that I wanted to touch upon. You said, our family and friends envision a version of us. And my parents did. They wanted me to go to college. They wanted me to get to graduate. They wanted me to get a good career. They wanted me to live this life. They, not me. And that's just it. Is for a long time, I struggled with this, because I thought that, if I'm not making my parents proud, then I'm failing. No. If I'm not making myself proud, I'm failing. Yeah. And that's a guilt that I think as an immigrant that I carried, and that's in fact what was prohibiting me from pushing forward, because I worried so much about what would my dad think, what would my mom think, what would my sister think, as opposed to what do I think, what do I want, why am I not doing that, why do I do that every day, and remind myself every day, I see my kids, I'm grateful for them, I know it took a lot of pain, a lot of sacrifice, there's a whole story behind that. Use that as fuel, Ivan. Use that as fuel. That's what I use every day, literally as fuel. As I say, you know what? It's for my kids, because I want them to have opportunities I didn't, because I want them to be able to build their goals and dreams. I don't want them, when they get to age, figure out, okay, am I going to go to college or start a business, but have something to help them with. And I knew that going to college and working a 9 to 5, and barely scrubbing by wasn't going to cut it. In fact, when 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, only to find out that they're broke after they get their paycheck, have less than $500 in their bank account. That's America, literally right now. And it's not getting any better. So why would I want to do that? And I realized, okay, I'm going to take a bigger risk. I remind myself this every day, every morning when I see them. It's for them, because they're my why, they're my purpose. And that's another thing too, when you were asking, what are some things that I do, is what is your why? What is your purpose? Why are you doing what you're doing? You see, most entrepreneurs, at least ones that I have met, start businesses for money reasons, or the fact that they want to be their own boss.
Right.
Well, dude, I hate to break it to you, but that's probably the wrong reason to start a business.
Right.
You started with a why and a purpose. Why are you doing it? And sure, money's great, but money's the grease to the wheels.
Right.
You got to have something that's going to drive you every day. My kids drive me. My goals drive me. My dreams drive me. I don't look at money, you know? I don't look at how much money am I going to make today, because I know if I keep doing what I've been doing, the money will come. And it takes time. It takes time to make that happen. So, sense of gratitude, why, purpose, keep those close at your heart every day. And always, always act from the heart, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Because, being yourself is tough, because the world will push you to the side and kick you to the curb because you're not playing their game. They want you to play their game because they want you to blend in. Let's face it. If you're playing the game that the world is playing, will you ever win? No, because you're playing it by their rules, not by your rules.
Yeah. That reminds me of one thing that I tell people too, is that if you're working for your profits, you're doing it wrong. You have to be working for your purpose, right? And and again, going back to what you mentioned, is that a lot of times, when we're looking at, I want to be an entrepreneur, is like just looking at that profit. That profit is not coming, then you give up, right? And then that's when you kind of feel like, I fail, so this is not for me. Let me go back to my 9 to 5. So working for your purpose is going to be maybe a much longer process, yet that profit will come eventually into its place. If people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So anywhere in the socials, I'm under Ivan Temelkov, my Facebook personal profile. I have a Facebook business page. I'm very active on Instagram, also under Ivan Temelkov. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Very active there. My YouTube channel, also Ivan Temelkov. And I tend to fire off some polarizing tweets here and there. So on the Twitter webs also, under Ivan Temelkov everywhere.
Awesome, awesome. Cool. Well, Ivan, I really had a really good time, and I know I value your time, so I definitely want to let you go. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before I let you go?
The only thing that I would really want to share with your listeners is that, don't be afraid to be yourself. That is probably the biggest thing. The biggest advice that I would give to anyone is, don't be afraid to be yourself and stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Definitely. Well, Ivan, once again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time here today. So thank you so
Appreciate it.
much. Yeah. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment on this podcast episode, and share it with everybody. Somebody needs to hear this message. Definitely, this is something that we can help inspire and empower other people. Please make sure that you stay tuned for the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.